Welcome back, guys. Thank you so much for being here. So today's project is Dr. Seuss Inspired. Um, March 2nd will be Dr. Seuss's 117th birthday, born in 1904 in Massachusetts. He has probably become the most beloved children's book writer out there. And ironically, his first book, he wasn't published until 1937, so he was over 30 years old when that happened. He was an illustrator, a cartoonist, and again, a children's book writer. He wrote over 60 books or so, and he didn't just write them under the name Dr. Seuss, although that's probably the one he's most famous for. He also wrote it as Theo Lesage. The other pen names that he used was when he didn't illustrate. So the Tooth book he did not illustrate, and you can definitely see the difference. This was illustrated by Joe Matthau. That was his 100th book that he illustrated. But Dr. Seuss's art definitely has a very, very unique look to it, and you can spot a Dr. Seuss book probably just by looking at the um, the illustrations that Theodore Geisel, um, Theodore Seuss Geisel, drew. He had a very, very unique style. So his first book was, I saw it happen on Mulberry Street. I have it somewhere in the house, but these are probably the ones that he's the most famous for, or most people know. Cat in the Hat, of course, that was really his, real big hit. It was rejected like 27 times, okay? So if you guys ever find someone, we've talked about with art that everybody's not going to like your thing, 27 times it was rejected, and, probably one of the biggest kids' books out there. One fish, two fish, red fish, blue fish, and green eggs and ham, okay? This one's kind of near and dear to my heart. At least two of my kids, this was the first book that they read, cover to cover. And these were my favorites growing up. There's a Walk It in My Pocket. I think one of the things that I always loved about his books and his illustrations, his style, it was just anything could happen. You never knew what was going to be coming on the next page, what he was going to call it, the pictures, how he was going to draw them, from the characters to the trees to everything. What Pet Should I Get was one that was released not too long ago, actually. My kids and I had to go, and we had to be one of the first ones to grab it when it was released in the stores. It was released by his wife, who had gone through some boxes and found some books that he never published, but they were ready to be published, essentially. And so this was released recently. And of course, as you know, The Cat in the Hat has kind of gotten a new life with the PBS specials and new books with, The Cat in the Hat knows a lot about that. So, his legacy certainly still lives on, which is really, really awesome, that hopefully for generations to come are going to be able to experience Dr. Seuss. But today, again, we're going to be celebrating Dr. Seuss in a very, very special way, celebrating his life through his artwork. Now, like I said, it's a very, very unique style. So I would recommend that you stick around and see how I tackle this one, because this was really different for me. I have never really attempted to draw in a Dr. Seuss style. So I'm going to show you, I'm going to, kind of break down how I tackled it. And hopefully you can celebrate Dr. Seuss's birthday, again, March 2nd, by, doing some fun Dr. Seuss art. I am using, let me let you know what I'm using. I am using markers for this one. Now, Theodore Geisel used a variety of medium. His style is kind of definitely kind of a surreal feeling to it. It's definitely geared towards children, but there's like a dreamlike kind of state. Again, there was that feeling of you never knew what was going to come next. Okay, that was very, very unique, very typical of his works. Um, and so, you really just, I don't know, for me, I wanted to play on that. We're going to be talking more about surrealism. And surrealism is coming around in the style when he's growing up. So it does, really make sense that that style is in there throughout his works. I am using markers. Now, these are alcohol markers. They're, kind of an off-brand of, probably a Copic marker or something, which is really, the high end. But I wanted to try the alcohol markers. Now, if you have, that bin, I can't find it now, but one of those bins of markers that, you have somewhere in the house, or, Crayolas or Crazy Art, whatever brand you have, it's not going to matter. Just have some fun. Now, a lot of his work was also done in watercolor. I had thought about doing watercolor, but I really just wanted to try markers. And again, it's one of those things, mediums, where everybody has it around the house. So, it's totally accessible and everything like that. I used some of my Faber-Castell ink markers, ink pens for some of the outlining, but this has a black in it too, and I'm sure you have, finer tipped black markers is probably what you're going to want. So you do not have to have the ink markers, but I'm just letting you know what I used. But you can use, again, any medium for this. You can use watercolor, crayons, the sky's the limit. Again, just have some fun. You're going to need a pencil. You are going to need an eraser of some shape or form. And of course, you're going to need marker. Now, I'm going to let you know, or, sorry, not markers, paper. I use my multimedia paper on this one. You can use any paper that you want, even typing paper. But know that if you're using markers, they are going to bleed through. So you're either going to want, something like this, a whiteboard or something that's going to stop that. Get these at Home Depot. If you need more information, let me know. But you can also use newspaper. You can use, extra paper underneath it, but you're definitely, or the, Dollar Tree, plastic coverings or whatever for your table. But you're going to want to cover your table. Most of those markers are washable. Just in case, you're going to want to protect your surfaces, okay? Again, this was a really fun project, and hopefully you will enjoy it. And I will see you on the other side.
Okay, guys, so here is my kind of taking those tiptoe steps in before I really dive into a bigger project. So I did the fish separately. I didn't record it. My apologies. I have never drawn in kind of a Dr. Seuss style, and I really just wanted to try it out. And I think not doing it on camera kind of gave me the freedom to play around and, see how it would work. So I did that separately, and I was kind of impressed on how it turned out. I think he's kind of cute. So it gave me a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more confidence to kind of start, digging in a little bit deeper. I'm using this girl on the left as kind of my inspiration, but I'm going to go for a kind of a self-portrait-esque type feel to it. Now I'm drew the shape of the head first, and as you can see, the drawing that I'm doing is kind of a 3/4 point of view for this picture, for this face. So I drew the center line so that I could know where my nose was supposed to go and how the eyes were supposed to be tilted in this piece. After I had the lines pretty well set as to where I wanted, I used my my Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pen, the XS. It's really thin ink line, so the ink shouldn't mess with the markers. Now these are alcohol markers too, so and the ink is not water-based, so they shouldn't blend with each other, and I didn't have too many problems with it. But again, anything that you use is fine. I wanted to erase my graphite pencil before I started mixing in with the markers. I didn't know if those would mix. So I used that really thin line. I figured it would be thin enough that if I needed to go back and make any changes or whatever, it was going to be okay if I made a mistake. And again, this is one of those where I'm kind of tiptoeing my way in and getting a feel for the medium that I haven't used for a while. I used to use markers a lot. I haven't used them for a while though. And so this was definitely new and different using them. And as well as doing a different style. This is, I don't know if I've ever done anything with Dr. Seuss type style. So this was very different, and I really just wanted to get a feel for the medium and the style, two different things. But it was fun doing the two of them together. It kind of gave me a chance to play around with both. What else was I going to say? The eyes. I think one of the things that is the most unique that I found as I was drawing with the Dr. Seuss style, and remember what we talked about with the realistic drawings and when we're studying with drawings a couple weeks ago, was that when you're drawing, it's amazing how you start noticing things that you probably never noticed before. And I don't know if I never noticed it before, but the pupils on the eyes of Dr. Seuss characters are more like U's. Um, they're not really a circle or an oval or anything like that. So that was definitely different, and one of the things that popped out first to me. The other, I think, again, when I started playing around with it, was a little intimidating. It looked very busy, but for me, once I started breaking the things, the pictures down into their basic shapes, it really became much simpler than I had made it out to. Now, I've never seen him draw. I'm curious, there's probably videos of it out there, how he, broke down, how he put together his characters. This was how I did it. It worked for me. I'm going through and outlining everything with that, marker pen once I'm done with it. And that was that. So now that I got, kind of my feet wet and feeling a little bit more comfortable, I decided I was going to jump in and do a, nice picture illustration, Dr. Seuss style. So I mentioned before that he had kind of a surrealistic feel to his work, which makes sense because we're going to be getting into surrealism soon, and his work and surrealism kind of come about together. So the fact that his pieces have that kind of dreamlike feel to it, and his books have that kind of feel of you never know what's going to happen next. On top of, even now his movies, several of his books have been turned into movies. The movies based on his books kind of have that feel. You just never know what's going to happen next. It's kind of exciting. So I decided to do a surrealistic style since I started with the fish, and then I did kind of a Dr. Seuss kind of self-portrait thing to it. I decided to put myself and this fish together in the illustration. Years ago, I had heard the quote, and I think I may have first heard it in a U2 song where it said that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. So I decided to draw myself and a fish on a bicycle built for for two, riding through apparently some kind of Dr. Seuss world. And so here it is. And, the bike doesn't have to be perfect because it's Dr. Seuss, and everything doesn't have to be perfect because it kind of has this Dr. Seuss feel to it. And that was really, really cool. It was really, really fun. And I am so incredibly thankful that I had this opportunity to try this. It was unique and fun. When I started trying to figure out what I wanted to put into the background, I decided to put some trees in the background. And, I've always just loved Dr. Seuss style trees. They're fun, and you never know what they're going to look at, like the Lorax and things like that. They're always going to look different and unique, and sometimes nothing like a tree. And that's okay. Now, I did very similar to what I did before. I put together the drawing with the pencils, and now I am going through with the ink pen, the Faber-Castell ink pen, and I am going over my lines so that I can get, some really clear lines as to where I am going. Um, Once I finish that, I will go through and completely erase everything. It's really hard, and you could totally do this without, doing all of that. But knowing that I was going to be using markers and some of the choices of my colors, I knew were probably going to be pretty dark, and I didn't want to completely lose my lines in the process of putting the markers in there. So this is what I did. What you do is up to you, and this is possibly not the way any illustrator would do it. I'm not an illustrator, but this was the way that I felt comfortable with, and it worked for me. So that was what I wound up doing. I'm going to go ahead and outline the trees as well, so I make sure I do not lose those. And then I wanted to make sure that those tires looked like, the wheels looked like that they were moving. So I put some motion lines, I guess, in there, some movement, made it look like they were spinning. Even though everything is kind of in a standstill position. I'm going to go through, finish out erasing, and then I'm going to start coloring in. Now, if you look at Dr. Seuss books, the palette choice, the color choices are usually pretty simple and often repeat quite a bit on the page. So depending upon how into this and serious that you want to get in the Dr. Seuss style, you can really do some studying on that and figure out, what colors that you would like to have in your palette. I noticed when I was going through them, there was, light blues and dark blues, sometimes that teal, red, white, black. Brown, the kids' hair, when I see the kids' hair in there, that's usually all, one color or things like that. So I'm sorry, that's my cat. So, it's just something that you would want to choose. Now, obviously you don't have to, you can choose whatever you want and you can do shading and things like that. But I noticed in his books, there really isn't that shading with the colors. The shading is mostly used more with a black marker or black ink, where it is, it's that black that's put in there that's made to look like the shadows or, yeah, the darker places, the shadows, so that the other would look like the highlighted spot. So it's one of those things that you really, I didn't notice until I really started, kind of copying the style, or at least trying to here, playing around with it in honor of Dr. Seuss. So you might just want to try it and, see what you come up with. This is my interpretation, my little, drawing of it. And yeah, so hopefully you'll enjoy it and, create something awesome and amazing. I used, as you can see, I shifted the paper to the bottom so that, I wouldn't push through to the other pages. As you can see, I'm working in my sketch pad. Yep, sorry. Working in my sketch pad here. So that didn't want to damage the other pages behind it. With the marker in case that isn't supposed to have green on the next page. Went through after I was done with the markers and added in my outlines to everything. Again, using between the Faber-Castell ink markers and the black alcohol marker, trying to just finish putting everything, all the outlines on it and the details, and hopefully that helps to make everything pop. And I think it really does. I believe most all of his pieces, there's some outlines in there to probably try to, give some definition and whatnot. And it certainly does help. Again, I'm not an illustrator. This was a lot of fun though, and I really, really hope if nothing else, that you give it a shot and try creating something fun, something um, dreamy and childlike, and just enjoy it.
So here are my finished products, guys. I wound up with, this kind of fun little step, tiptoe step in. Don't be afraid to do this, by the way. If there's ever a style or a material or something that you're maybe not 100% certain of, tiptoe your way in. Totally okay. Okay, I know sometimes it's fun to go head first and dive your way in, but, for those things that might be a little trickier for you or that you're trying to figure out, tiptoe your way in. Totally okay. So this was my little tiptoe in, and here is my finished result. I wound up putting a little bit more detail on the trees, and of course my signature at the bottom, which I could actually do this time. Um, because before I usually have to, wait until everything is dry, but you can do that here. So, yeah, so this is it. Hopefully you guys will have some fun and create something awesome. I sure hope that you post the pictures when you're done. You can do the hashtag, don't forget the art. I would love to see it. I really can't wait. I hope you guys have fun celebrating a really cool creative's birthday, and again, just have some fun while doing it. Enjoy, guys. Happy arting.